Welcome to the I Love Recruiting podcast with your host, Adam Roach.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the I Love Recruiting podcast. I am your host, Adam Roach, and today we have my man, Mr. Jordan Montgomery from Montgomery Companies. This guy, well, let me just share this with you. So a few podcasts ago, we had my man, John White on, and John introduced me to Jordan probably about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. And I tell you what, after watching Jordan and watching his companies grow, he's a keynote speaker. He's a coach. He actually works with a college football team. He's got a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful girls. Jordan, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Adam. I appreciate it, man. I've been following you and your content for quite some time. Since John made the introduction, really probably a couple years ago. And I know John was just a guest recently, I think, on your show. And so fun to follow him. And man, I've enjoyed the friendship that we built over the past couple of years. So
likewise, man. Likewise. Well, tell our listeners. So again, we have an equation here at the I Love Recruiting podcast called recruiting equals influence equals leadership, because we have a vision that we want to recruit 100 million people. And that may be to a company, that may be to a better way of life, that may be to whatever it may be, but that's our vision. So tell us, who is Jordan Montgomery?
Oof, loaded question, I suppose. Man, I just feel like I'm a pretty simple guy that lives in Southeast Iowa. Mm-hmm. And we've called Iowa home forever. Married to my wife, Ashley. We have 3 daughters, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And let's see, I'm 32, so 10 years out of school, still trying to find my way. I heard J-Mac said on the last episode that he felt like he was in chapter 1. Mm-hmm. I feel like in many ways, I still feel like I'm in chapter 1. Still learning, figuring life out. But we're in a fun season. You know what it's like, right? I mean, it's just we're little kids and life moves fast, and so you try to enjoy the small moments. And yeah, we have a consulting firm, and we do a fair amount of public speaking mm-hmm. and coaching, and work with a lot of folks in real estate and financial services. And so I just have a blast, man. It's fun doing the work that we get to do all day.
You do, man. And on your social media is so fun to follow too, because number one, you bring the heat, my friend. You really bring the heat. You bring the value. You bring your inspiration. I'm a Hoosier fan, though. I mean, you bring your Hawkeye stuff, but I'm a big Hoosier fan.
Hey, it's been fun chatting, man. I got to run, but good luck with the rest. I'm just kidding.
Maybe one of these days, when the NCAA tournament comes back, we'll have to have a fun little wager there if they ever play each other, right?
There you go.
So walk us down this path. So Northwestern Mutual, right?
Yep.
And now you have your own big company, and it's a big company. Walk us down that path. Tell us how this all began.
Well, I was really blessed to get my start at Northwestern. I was 22 years old, right out of college, and I just fell into Northwestern. I wish I had this, I know John interviewed different firms and mm-hmm. did his due diligence. I did not. I just came out of school. I met one guy. He's like, hey, I think you should do this. And 2 weeks later, I had a job. And I thought, these guys seem like good people. They have strong values. Mm-hmm. And I could see myself hanging out with them all day, every day. And if I get to be with people, then that'd be great.
Right.
So I just went to work building relationships. We're in the people business. So a lot of it was, relationship building, worked on basic communication skills and sales strategies right out of school. Mm-hmm. And my 3rd year in the business, I was appointed a managing director. So I ran a small office. And that's really where I think my professional leadership journey began. John Maxwell, who I know that is I think a friend of yours, and also you're a fan of his. And he always says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Right. And so my belief is that all of us are leading in some form or capacity, but the first mm-hmm. time that I ever led formally was as a managing director at Northwestern Mutual. And, Northwestern Mutual has become our biggest client, which is pretty fun.
Really?
So not Northwestern Mutual corporate, but a lot of the advisors and leaders inside that system. And so I have a deep love for that firm, and it really allowed me to work on my leadership skills, allowed me to really work on my communication skills. I learned a lot about myself. John Maxwell always says the hardest part of leadership is leading self. And that's true.
Yeah.
And so, and so today, yeah, we run a company. Montgomery Companies is the name of the company, and we serve a few hundred clients, individual coaching clients, group coaching clients. Do a lot of public speaking. I'll give a shout out to a mentor of mine, a guy by the name of Ben Newman, who opened a lot of doors for me. Ben and I have about a 10-year relationship, and you talk about the power of getting something in writing. I visited Ben in St. Louis in 2010, and I was a part of one of his workshops. He calls them boot camps. And we were writing our vision. At the end of the time that we spent together, he said, I want you to write down like where you want to be in 10 years. And I wrote down, I remember just I had 2 sentences. I still have the document. And it said, I want to be doing some sort of work with you. And I met with Ben.
Sure.
And here I am 10 years later, and Ben's a mentor and a good friend. And 2 years ago, I called Ben. I said, Ben, man, I'd love to do some of the work that you're doing. But also I'm going to stay with Northwestern Mutual. I'm going to do this financial planning thing. But if I could do some of what you're doing on the side, man, I would be thrilled. And so he sort of gave me a few basic steps of getting into that business. And then about 90 days went by, Adam, and we were really blessed to have like a full-blown business. And I wasn't really prepared for that. I just kind of let people know, hey, we're doing this. And it's sort of hard work meets opportunity. We had a lot of good friends. When you do something new and crazy, you have to have some crazy people that say yes, that go with you.
Yep.
And so anyway, here we are 2 years later. The company started 2 years ago. It's 2 years old today. And we're working with a few hundred people and having a ton of fun.
That's incredible. And now you coach so executives at Fortune 500 companies, you professional athletes, salespeople. So let's go back real quick to Ben. What was it about Ben that you gravitated towards? Because again, that's a form, clearly that's an influential form of, he was leading you, and then ultimately you kind of recruited yourself into his world. So, but what was it that was pulling you towards Ben? Just curious.
Ben's he is the most disciplined, regimented person I've ever met. And, I love that quote, he or she who believes is believed. And I really was attracted to Ben's level of belief. And I always have been. I mean, he's just somebody, when he speaks, you feel like he means it. And so if the question is what drew you to Ben, it's that. I just felt like he had a really clear vision of where he wanted to go, and he believed it. Right. And I had watched him do it. And I thought, here's a guy who, great guy, very talented, strong values, but it's not like, you meet Ben and he's a guy, he's just like us, he's a real person. And I felt like, I could follow Ben, and I could do some of what Ben does. And he's been really helpful in helping us build what we have today. So it's been good.
Right. And I love what you said there. You said he had a clear vision, right? And that attracted you to him. And what I have found, even in my own coaching space, when I'm coaching recruiters or when I'm coaching real estate agents, it's fascinating. I'll ask them the question, what is your vision for the company? Right. And a lot of times we get crickets, right? We get crickets. Or if you ask them what the vision statement is of your company, you kind of get crickets again. So you saw his vision. It was a clear vision. It attracted you to him. He became a mentor of yours. You wrote down that in 10 years, you wanted to be in business with him some way, shape, or form. And now here you are modeling your company kind of after his company, right?
Yeah, in many ways. I mean, we do a lot of the same work. And so, I've got my company, Ben's got his, but he's still a mentor and a coach of mine today. And
that's incredible.
So I think it's really careful that, I don't want to be Ben. I don't think Ben wants to be me, right? I want to run my own race, my own journey. But we have to have mentors, and I think you have to have people that you want to be like, that you want to emulate, and not just who they are in business, but who they are in life in general. And so, he's been a good guy for me to chase and pursue, and in many ways has set a good example. So,
that's incredible. So now let's go to Montgomery Companies. So you had this thought, you had this vision, and then you created it. Now you said you got it up and running in 90 days. Right? Some companies, it takes them 9 years before they even get out of the gates. I mean, walk us through that. What was that process like to get it up and running in 90 days?
Well, there's this adage that if you ask for money, you'll get advice. And if you ask for advice, you get money twice.
Oh.
And that's true. And that showed up in us building this company. And I've always sort of believed in that, but I believe in it more now because what I did, Adam, I just called people that I really respected and trusted.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one specific conversation with a guy named Dave Keeker, who's a very good friend of mine. He's a managing partner in the Northwestern Mutual System, and he's always just been a guy that I've really respected. And so I called Dave and I said, hey, Dave, if you were me, what would you be thinking about? Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I mean, I started this new company. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm like 30 days in. I got a lot to learn. But as a managing partner, as a leader of a major organization, like, what would you be doing if you were me to provide value and to grow the business?
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me some advice and feedback. And then he called me the next day and he said, hey, would you ever be interested in working with us in some capacity? And I said, well, man, I'd be thrilled. And then, a few more conversations after that, we had sort of come to an agreement, and I got to be a small part of his organization, and that's turned into more work over time. But it was a classic example of where I think sometimes just asking for advice
Mm-hmm.
and putting yourself in a position where you can learn and just laying yourself at the feet of people who've been there, done that, can be a really winsome thing. So I wish I could tell you I had like this grand marketing plan and I did this, this 5-step process. It wasn't that. It was, we were fortunate to have known a lot of really good people.
Mm-hmm.
And those good people opened doors, gave us advice and feedback, and sort of organically in that process, we ended up with some clients. It was the craziest thing.
Yeah. I love what you said there because I know our listeners will pick this up as well because I just did. You went out and you asked for advice, right? So you surrounded yourself with some really key people and then you asked them for advice. And what I have found a lot of people won't do is ask for advice because their ego gets in the way, right? Their ego gets in the way and then they attempt to either do it themselves or unfortunately recreate the wheel when the core people around them will really help them if they ask for it, right? So, man, that was a really strong statement there when you said you kind of laid it at his feet and just said, hey, listen, what do I do? Can you help me? That's awesome.
I believe feedback is the breakfast of champions,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a John Wright Sr. quote, who's a longtime friend and coach of mine, but it's true, right? We all need it. And I was fortunate to get a lot of it at an early age. So I'm grateful for that.
That's great. Okay. So you got some advice and he kind of pulled you in and kind of helped you grow a little bit. And then what happened?
We just kept learning, man. I mean, really, it's every day is different. I believe you have to take things one day at a time. I'm a big believer that, if we live too far into the future, it creates fear. And if we're living too far in the past, it can create anxiety. And so I really tried hard at him to live into the day that I have, knowing that tomorrow's not promised and yesterday's gone. And so here I am today. And today we're just focused on loving on people, growing relationships, providing as much value as we can to the people that we serve.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be really prayerful about what the future holds.
Right.
But after, we had a few crazy people say yes. Then it was like, I really had to work on myself and my own education and training. And, one of the things that we take very seriously is creating content for our clients. I mean, I've always got to have something to say, right? So if I'm leading a workshop or it's a keynote speech or even an individual coaching session, I think sometimes the hardest part of this work or the part that takes the most time is filling your brain with good stuff. Because good stuff in leads to good stuff out. And if there's not a lot of good stuff going in, you just don't have much to give. So in terms of, what'd you do next after you had a couple of those conversations where you asked for advice, I started to take my personal growth and development more seriously than I probably ever had. And I'm still taking it very seriously.
Sure.
So that's reading books, listening to podcasts, having great mentors and friends, learning from the good people around you, people like you, people that can just offer a different perspective. And so, we've been fortunate to be around a lot of good people.
That's incredible. So we had mentors in the beginning. We had some core people that helped you get going. Now you're filling yourself up with knowledge, with love, with education. Do you have some go-tos? We heard you say John Maxwell. Who are some of your go-tos that really fill up Jordan to fill you up with value so that you can go give more value to people?
I got this podcast I listen to called I Love Recruiting.
Man, that is a good one.
It's a good one. So seriously, man, you're doing great work. Maxwell's one for sure. John Maxwell. Ed Milet is another. Craig Groeschel is a guy that I listen to a lot. He's a pastor out of Oklahoma, but does a lot in the world of leadership. There's a bunch. Mark Batterson is another, an author. I read a lot of his stuff. Lewis Howes' School of Greatness podcast is a podcast that I dial into often. Simon Sinek, big fan of his work. Jason Dorsey has been a guy that I've learned a lot from as it relates to generational change and impact in the workplace. So I could probably keep going, but those are a handful of the people that we're learning from on a continued basis.
I was flipping through Instagram the other day, maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and Ed and Lewis were on there together. They were doing. Did you catch that?
Yeah, good. Isn't it? Yeah,
strong. That was a good one.
They're great, man. They're great.
So now I want to fast forward because I really love this value that you've provided, well, Corona hit and it probably paused your Growth Over Goals tour. Man, that's. First of all, the name alone is I'm gonna go out on a limb here, guys. I might cuss a little bit. Is badass. I mean, Growth Over Goals. Where'd that come from? Before we get into the tour, where'd the name come from?
Yeah, so a lot of that was inspired by John Maxwell. One of my favorite quotes. John Maxwell says, "If you focus on goals, you may reach your goals, but it doesn't guarantee growth. If you focus on growth, you will grow, and you will reach your goals." And so, John talks all the time about growth being more important than goals. So I just kind of took that quote and picked it apart. And I said, growth is more important than goals. And so that became Growth Over Goals.
That's really cool. Now, you had scheduled 10 different cities, right?
So we did the Growth Over Goals tour. We did that tour is done. Maybe
that's done. Good.
On the website. Yep, that's passed. And then we have, I don't know if it's 20 or so engagements booked, and all of that's a little bit up in limbo. So, sure. I'm usually, and it's one of the challenging parts about this business that I'm in is with the young family is all the travel, So we're just trying to work through what's postponed and what's rescheduled and what's canceled. And in our industry, there's been a lot of shakeup, but I've enjoyed the extra time at home too. It's been a gift not to be on a plane or have to sleep in a hotel room. I'm enjoying sleeping on my own bed has been a blessing. So
I know it has been nice. So now if someone wants to go one of your tours, right? So the Growth Over Goals tour that's ended now. What are they going to learn? What value are you going to share when someone comes to one of those events?
Yeah, there's some key areas that we focus on in growth and development. One would be mindset. So we spend a lot of time around mindset, vision, focus. I believe all good things start in the mind. I think we live in a world where we're obsessed with strategy and concepts and ideas and language, but we don't often talk about what supports all of the ideas and the concepts and the strategies and language, and it's a sound mind. So we spend a lot of time talking about mindset first and foremost. Spend a lot of time on relationships. So relationship building, soft skills, communication, building trust and rapport. It's a huge part of our work. Spend time on intellect. And so, what are the strategies for growing our mind? And habits are a huge part of that. And then we spend a lot of time on developing and growing our brand. So our individual brand, our organizational brand, like what does it look like for you to go to market with your value proposition and the way that God made you to offer service and provide value. So those are the 4 areas that we spend a lot of time in. Our work goes beyond that, but if you were to sit in one of our seminars or speaking engagement, you would hear about those 4 areas.
Wow, that's strong. Sign me up. I'm ready.
Come, man. Come hang out.
That sounds incredible. Just powerful stuff. You are an incredible man. You bring so much value to so many people. Everybody, I want you to go look up Jordan right now. Jordan Montgomery's Montgomery Companies, right? That's what it is, .com?
Yeah. That's it.
Go look him all up. Now, I want to transition because we're both sports nuts. We're both athletes, and I want to know now about Central Arkansas football, right? So what is your role with that team? Because I think it's incredible. What is the actual role? What do you do for them?
Man, it's a special place. Conway, Arkansas, Central Arkansas. It's a little in the middle of the state, small Division I school, really special place. I've been fortunate to do a lot of their mental training, and some would call it like a performance coach is the flag that we fly when we do that work. But really, man, I just try to be an asset and a resource to the team. So, helping them with their focus and their mental state, overcoming obstacles in their mind, making sure that we're mentally prepared when we take the field. And I really enjoyed working with Coach Brown and their coaching staff. They have a first-class athletic department, coaching staff. And so, yeah, I mean, working with athletes is fun, right? I mean, it's the world of sports it's a blast to be a part of. And
Sure.
you sort of have to know your place, right? Like, they've got guys that are brilliant in the X's and O's and strategy and game plan. And I just try to stay out of that, right? That's not my jam. But when it comes to the mental side of the game, I feel like where we can really step in and provide some value. And we've been fortunate to grow some special relationships with the kids, and it's been a lot of fun.
So I want to go a little deeper into that. As you go into that locker room, right? As you are that performance coach, that mental coach for these young kids, when you see the impact that you're having on these kids, these younger, college kids, what does that do for you? What does that make you feel to see the impact that you're having on these kids and the growth that they have mentally, so that when they leave that university and go out into the real world, they take some Jordanisms with them? What's that do for you?
Well, I learn as much from them as they learn from me, I think, for sure. I mean, you get around 100 guys that have a common vision, that are working toward a common goal. It's part of what makes sports special in general, but it's a really unique culture. And so first off, I'm learning from them all the time. I think my work, at the end of the day, Adam, and I would say this to any of the players or anybody in that organization, my goal is to help them become better people and have a greater vision for the future. And I want to lift the lid on their potential, not in football, but in life. And so, I was just having a conversation with a young man who graduated last year. It's on the team. And he's having major success in this entrepreneurial venture that he kind of started or became a part of. That, for me, has been one of the biggest wins in working with that program. And it had nothing to do with football. It was actually what happened after football. But I met him when he was playing football. Right. And so, what it means to me, I mean, success in that arena for me would mean that we're helping people think bigger about what's possible. We're helping them stay really present, stay focused on the mission. We want them to have as much success in the game of football as possible. Right. But also that success would translate into life when they finish football. And it starts with Coach Brown. A head coach at UCA is a phenomenal leader of people. I mean, really somebody who cares deeply, not just about the athlete, but the person. Mm-hmm. And I think he's really set the tone in that program for growing and building men, not just building and growing football players. And so much of our work fits in that bucket of growing the full person as it relates to personal growth and development.
Right. And then as you see that and you watch these kids grow, man, that's got to be such an empowering feeling to yourself, because you're a very selfless person, Jordan. I know that you are. And I know that that's got to fill you up, though, watching those kids grow, watching those young men turn into these massive contributors to society.
Yeah, it does. I mean, at the end of the day, they have a major platform in our country, right? I mean, sports, of all the work that we do, people want to ask more about sports than everything else, which is kind of crazy, right? Because you could go into some major firm and work with this really talented leadership team that's got 30 years of professional experience and all kinds of wisdom. And people are like, yeah, I don't really care about that. I want to know about the work that you're doing with the college junior and sophomores and seniors, because that's our society, right? I mean, it's and candidly, that's the way I am. I'm drawn to sports. I'm drawn to competition. I love that arena, and they have a major platform. And so it does fill you up, because you know that the work you're doing in that space has such a huge ripple effect, on the community, on fans, on all the people that they're going to come into contact with in the future. At the end of the day, they have a lot of influence. It's a big platform, and to be a Division I athlete in today's day and age is a responsibility, and we want to help them, steward that responsibility well.
For sure. Hey, now, curious question, because I'm gonna talk dad here for a second, because I take a lot of my coaching strategies, if you will. My kids are pretty competitive tennis players, and I take some of the strategies that I use with some of my coaching clients, and I use it with my kids. We've got a big whiteboard here in my office, and I'll have them do some mental work. Have you transitioned to working with any of your girls yet? I mean, I know they're young still, but what's your thought process around that?
Yeah, man. And they, again, I'm learning from them probably more than, or as much as they're learning from me. Mm-hmm. But, you just start to realize how much you don't have figured out, right? I can walk into a locker room or to a boardroom and feel like I got it really figured out.
Right.
But man, you walk into to your kids, playing or doing what kids do, and it's like, man, I got a lot to learn. So, yeah, I think again, a lot of it's so much of what you get in life is what you expect out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that our lives are always moving in the direction of our strongest thought. And so we want to fill our girls with truth and love, and we want them to have, real spiritual maturity as they get older. And, I think you learn two things from your parents. You learn who you want to become
Mm-hmm.
and who you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think Ashley and I are working really hard to be an example for them. And many times we fail at that. So thankful for grace.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, certainly we want to fill them with optimism and love and truth and energy. And, one of the little rituals that we have before we go to bed at night, this comes from the movie, The Help. And, there's a sweet scene in that movie where, this woman looks at this young gal and she says, "Hey, I just want you to know you're smart, you're kind, and you're important." And so that's a little exercise, before we go to bed at night, we tell each girl, we say, "Hey, you're kind and you're smart and you're important."
That's great.
And want them to know that their life has purpose. And even if we fail, even if we don't always set a great example, or, we have conversations throughout the day that aren't kind or aren't loving, that we can end each day with a message that gives them truth and hope for the future. So it's been a fun thing in our family.
That's super strong, man. That's I always like to say that's Superman strong right there. That's really, really good. You are an incredible dad.
Really simple.
You're an incredible dad, my man. Well, how can people come find you? Where can they go find you?
Yeah, we try to do a decent amount on social media. MontgomeryCompanies.com is our website. Jordan M. Montgomery is the Instagram page where we have a decent amount of activity. Mm-hmm. And we do some stuff on Facebook. Montgomery Companies is where you find us there. And
wait, but can we pause there for a second? Again, there's that modesty showing up. Decent amount. You're almost at 50,000 followers on Instagram. Come on.
I don't know, man. It's like anymore though in today's day and age, and we're in a unique industry where there's no storefront, right? You're not selling a product. It's not real estate. It's not financial services products. So for us, social media, it's kind of like the storefront, right? Where it's the front door of our house. We have a home office. So yeah, we just try to be active and sharing our brand with other people. So yeah.
Well, I truly appreciate your time today, Jordan. This has been really, really insightful. I've got a whole page of notes right here. This is incredible. And keep doing your work, man. Our equation, recruiting equals influence equals leadership. It goes backwards. Leadership equals influence equals recruiting. And man, you recruited me these last 35 minutes, man. I'm following you. I'm going to keep following you. You're a good man.
Well, let me ask you a question, Adam, because I think, number one, I'm honored that you had me on, and I have been following your show. I just told you I listened to that full episode that you had with John White, which was fantastic. What's your favorite part of doing this show? I love recruiting. Tell me the why behind the what. Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So truly it's to give back, right? It's to give to people as much as possible, to interview as many incredible leaders and influencers as possible so that others can learn from us. When we started this show, I said, I want to impact 100 million lives. I want to recruit 100 million people to do something bigger, better, faster, stronger, or to become that person that you just kind of talked about. And that's the why behind it. I literally just got goosebumps when I said that out loud, because that's the truth. I wake up and I love to recruit. I love to bring value to people. I love to share and influence. And this is just, the podcast is just a platform for that, right? People go to iloverecruiting.com all the time and they'll fill out the questionnaire there, and we'll follow up with them and we'll help them any way we can, whether that's through coaching, whether that's through the actual recruiting platforms that we have, whatever it may be. So that's the what and the how. But man, that why just truly just pulls me every single day.
Well, I know you're spending a lot of time on it, man. And for a busy guy like you, as a father and a businessman and a leader in the community, I know it takes a lot of time to put this stuff together. So I just want to say thanks for having me on. Thanks for the great work that you're doing and the influence that you have on people. And I think no shortage in belief or thinking big, right? If your vision is to impact 100 million people. So, and we want to spend time with people like you that have a big vision for life. And so, just wanted to praise you for that, man. Say thanks. And I really have enjoyed our friendship over the last couple of years, and we're just getting started. So
we are just getting started. Chapter 1, right?
That's right. Chapter 1, phase 1. God bless John White for getting us connected. So
exactly. Yeah, he's a good guy. Well, this has been Jordan Montgomery, everybody, with MontgomeryCompanies.com. Go check him out. I am Adam Roach, your host here at I Love Recruiting, and we will see you next time. Take care.